Anders. I'm a full-stack web developer at NAV. I'm going to talk a bit about our Headless Enonic XP setup today and the way we use our design system, which is called Aksel. I also have a colleague with me here from NAV who actually works on Aksel, so that's nice. So just a bit in brief about NAV. We're the Norwegian Welfare and Labour Administration. We administer public welfare and benefits and services from the Norwegian state. We're responsible for about a third of Norway's state budget for things like pensions, unemployment benefit, sickness benefit, family benefit, and social services, and various other benefits and programs. And yeah, say a little bit about NAV.no. I work in a team called Team NAV.no. We work on NAV.no. We're not the only team who works on NAV.no, but that is our name, so we're sticking with it. My team, we're responsible for most of the public pages on NAV.no, so not so much the logged-in pages or applications or things like that, but mostly the front pages and information pages about our services. Both for private individuals and also for employers and health professionals and things like that. We get about 250K daily unique users on an average weekday, and we serve about a little over 16,000 pages from our CMS. And our CMS is one of our core products in our team, our CMS stack, which we provide. We don't really own most of the content in our own CMS, my team, but we provide a publishing platform for the other teams at NAV who are specialized in the various areas and the various benefits. They publish their content in our CMS, on our publishing platform. So there are many other apps on NAV.no in addition to our CMS stack, mostly for logged-in users, managed by many different teams. And we all use the same design system. But today I will talk about our CMS mainly. So we use, of course, Enonic XP as our CMS backend with Next.js on our front end. So we use XP as a headless CMS. We don't have any front-end logic at all in XP. We used to previously. We had about a little over 3 years ago, we had a sort of process to move our front-end code out of XP to some other solution, and we ended up with Next.js. So I've been running this for about 3 years now, and it's been working pretty well. And on the XP side, we use the Guillotine GraphQL library for resolving content to the front end. We don't actually expose any GraphQL services directly to the front end. We use Guillotine internally in our XP app. So the front end just asks for a URL, and XP handles the rest really, and just gives it back the content it needs to render that particular page. So on the front end side, we use server-side rendering with static HTML. For those of you who are familiar with Next.js, we use get static props and incremental static regeneration, which basically means that every page on the first request, it is rendered to a static HTML on the server. And then any subsequent request then gets the content from that cache. So this gives us the benefit of a static site, very fast average response times. We have also implemented an event-driven cache invalidation system. So this can also update every time content is published in our CMS. It will be updated immediately, so the user always the latest information, even though we have static HTML. This also gives us the benefit of not having to build the entire site every time we deploy to production, because that would take a very long time with 16,000 pages. And we make very heavy use of components when composing pages in XP, where we also utilize our design system, Aksel. This is a very nice match between the parts and layout components and the React components that are distributed through Aksel.
Now, one question.
Yeah.
You use the Next.js app router?
Excuse me?
The app router in Next.js?
No, we still use the page router. So for now, at least. We might at some point, but it was not available when we first started this setup, so we haven't done a really big rewrite yet on it, but it's coming maybe soon. Yeah, that was basically my slides. I'm going to do the rest of my talk as a live demo. Since this is about design systems, I'm going to just walk you through Aksel, the documentation. It is available online on Aksel.NAV.no. This name Aksel, it's a Norwegian word for the English axle, so it's basically what makes the wheels go around, sort of. Yeah, so you can see here there are two sections really to Aksel. You have this sort of front-end libraries, which is what I'll mainly talk about, but we can also look at this second section here about god practice, best practices. This is basically sort of a, it's best practices for the various stages of digital product development. It includes things like, it covers topics such as design, content strategy, accessibility, and various aspects of teamwork, and also how to use user testing, analytics, to make your development like insight-based. And this is contributed to from multiple teams at NAV who work with digital product development across all disciplines. So developers, designers, content creators, analysts. But back to these component libraries, which is the main interest today. We have there are really three main libraries distributed by Aksel. You have an icon library, which is icons, basically. And design tokens, which is distributed through CSS, as a CSS library, with tokens for like color palettes, padding, things like that, to make this even across the various applications on NAV.no. And what we'll mainly look at, which is the components library, which is based on React. You see at the top here we have these primitives, which mainly define the layouts of the whole page or of sections of the pages. You can see these are marked as beta, so this is not really the main focus at the moment, but it's coming. So the real meat and potatoes of our component library is this core library, which is really generic components, sort of building blocks for building pages on our website. So we can have a look at this accordion, for example. It's an example of how this works. You have the documentation here, which really tells you sort of what this is useful for, what it's maybe not supposed to be used for. And you also have the like a preview here. Here you can see like you can try how it looks, see how it looks in different states. But here you also get like a code examples. So you can see that. You can also use this sandbox. Here you can see like you can try how it looks, and also guidelines to how you should use it and how you should not use it. So yeah, it's a very thoroughly documented library. So it's very easy to get started for developers of any experience level, really. So I should mention that it's not my team who developed this. We have a separate team who develops this documentation site and these component libraries called, appropriate enough, Team Aksel. So it's a very popular team at NAV. It's very easy to use. So I was thinking I was going to show you live how to actually use this as well. So yeah, I'll show you just a very quick live demo on how we use our components in our editor. Like I mentioned, we're very much based on component-based composition of our pages. So you can see here this is just a shell, but we have like, I have a couple of layouts here, which has a drop zone for parts. Also this side menu here has a couple of drop zones as well. So we basically map parts to design system components, really. That's the way we do it. So let's say I want a button here. We have a selection of parts available for this particular content type. We do restrict it in some cases. This is a very generic one, just a button. Let's say we want to link to some application for something. Let's say søknad om barnetrygd, which is child benefit. Then we have the various props here, which matches props for our React components from the design system. So let's say we want this type of button. Then we get a button. And maybe we want it to be full width, so it looks a little bit smoother. That's one example. Another example, let's say we want something here. We might want something like an alert box or varsel box. Help, we're having issues. We probably shouldn't ask a user for help, but now we did that. So now we get an alert box. And as you can see, we also have like an API in our front end which supports fetching just a single component. So this supports like hot reloading of the content of this part, so we can make changes on the go here without having to refresh the whole site. We also can put, we support at least some of our parts, can also be inserted as macros. So maybe we want a varsel box in here as well for some reason. Hello world. It's a classic. Now we have a varsel box there as well. And also I can check this box here. That turns this whole HTML area into a accordion that I tried to show earlier. So yeah. And how we do this? Yeah, sure.
So when you create this like nice setup of the page, and then you use like GraphQL or something to get it into your React app, right?
Yeah, more or less. Like sort of indirectly, the front end just asks an XP service for a URL, basically. And then the XP service resolves everything.
But then how do you tell React to use this sort of specific component? Is it just classes? Or
I can show you in the code how we map it. So basically, we have this React component here called parts mapper, which all parts are rendered through. So it basically picks out an appropriate, is this big enough, by the way? Yeah. An appropriate React component. So let's say this alert box is mapped to this React component called alert box part, which renders an alert box, which is a wrapper through around the actual alert component from our design system, which is this package here, DS React.
I have a question.
Yeah.
For part mapper, do you have this project, or do you just have a file with all the parts on Enonic XP matching what you have on the design system, and you just reuse that wherever?
Yeah, we basically reuse this particular part mapper. We have sort of a recursive structure to the component tree, so it renders from the root page component and then whatever components are contained within there. Yeah.
You said you're using the Next.js with Enonic.
Yeah.
You still use the React for execution rendering. The React elements. Yeah.
No, we do not use any. We have no real front-end logic at all in XP, so we do not use React for XP. We render everything in a wholly separate Next.js app. Yeah, so this was a very basic example. I can show you a bigger page like this, for example, Arbeidsavklaringspenger. Maybe show you the English version, since this is in English. Work assessment allowance. This is one of our benefit programs for people who have been sick or injured and need help to get back to work. You can see this is a very long page. There is a very complex legal framework behind many of our benefit programs, so we basically need a lot of information on our sites to cover every situation. So it's important to have good tools for our editors so they can manage the large amounts of content. I can show you this in our editor as well.
Was that a smart bookmark that picked up the content ID?
Yeah, actually. It's like a bookmark. It has a little JavaScript snippet in it, which opens Content Studio for the page that you're actually viewing. So yeah, here you can see this. It's all entirely based on, almost entirely based on components. There are a few hard-coded sections like the header and this side menu. Other than that, it's all based on components. I can also mention that we recently started using this layers functionality in XP for our multi-language pages. So we know we have this system in place. You can see this exists on 4 different languages. Yeah, that was basically what I had to show you regarding our design system. We are working now with, we're sort of cooperating, my team, with the Aksel team on expanding this, well, I suppose these primitives set up to sort of get more fully fledged page templates as well into our design system. Right now our page templates exist solely in Enonic, but we want to sort of reusable so all the different teams can.
We have a link in the top menu now. This is only 1 or 2 templates. Next one, Nomerstad.
Which one?
Second to last one. To the right.
Oh yeah. Oh, I have this already. Yeah. Yeah, they started with the arrow pages. Yeah. It's work in progress. We have arrow pages so far. We're going to get all the different templates that we use eventually. So it's a work in progress.
Anders, you probably mentioned that there's someone wants to try out something similar using Next.js. Bråthen Nomerstad, there's a starter tutorial like called Enonic XP.
Yeah.
You just go there and you will be able to do something similar to now it is.
Yeah, we built our solution really before that existed from Enonic's side, but they now have like a starter for this sort of setup. So we haven't explored that yet, but we might at some point in the future. Yeah.
How many front-end nodes do you have, or are you running cache on the front-end, and how do you do cache and validation? So let's say you change a menu, you need to revalidate everything.
Yeah, we're running on Kubernetes, so we typically run 3 or 4 pods for this front end. So we do have a system that basically can call every pod with a call from XP, so it can invalidate on all the pods. And that's something we had to build. Yes. Any other questions?
How many people are on the board team?
On my team, we have 16 people, I think. That includes 7 developers.
No, there's a team managing this platform. So where you have documentation for design system.
Yeah, that's a different team from my team. This is Team Aksel, which my colleague sitting here is part of that team, actually. So we are 2 separate teams, but we do work together quite a lot because we're both sort of responsible for the overall design of NAV.no. So yeah, we have some very common interests there. Yeah.
Is Aksel documentation self-made or is it generated? Is it like Storybook or?
We use Storybook.
Okay.
Well, no, actually, we use Storybook as well, but we use it internally. This one is self-made, and we use we use Sanity for some of it as a sequence.
I started to say it, but
Get out!
I mean 16,000 pages on Enonic. So.